and 5 minutes will be sufficient time to talk to the prisoners, because I always talk to them before.
All right, hello and welcome everyone to Career Advancement Club. This is our weekly webinar, and thank you for joining us today. This is a place for sharing career advancement tips. We're gonna allow just a few minutes. In the meantime, please introduce yourself on the chat room by giving your full name and the city you're coming from.
Yeah, my computer is in and out, my internet today. So if you don't see me, please look at the chat. I'm going to type,
Okay.
say, please unmute me or something, because it will unmute me, and it has been restarting about 3 times. So if that happens,
Okay.
just watch the chat room.
Okay, I'll check. And we're recording it today. We'll allow just a couple of minutes until maybe a few more people will be coming to join us.
Whose music is that? Hello? I don't know what's happening.
I can hear you, Martha.
There was music. I didn't know whose music it was.
Yeah, I put the music while we're waiting.
Okay, okay, good. I'm sorry, I'm like, what is
Gabe said he liked it last time, so I played it.
You have to warn me before we do that. I'm like, what is happening now? Yeah.
Welcome again to Employment Club. We are officially started. This is a place for sharing career advancement tips and experiences. If you haven't provided your information in the chat, please do so. We have this webinar every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Our Zoom number is 991-244-4850. Our generous sponsors include ICAT, Cicate, Impact, and Addis Solutions. Our webinar host is Community Career Promoter. Community Career Promoter inspire you to achieve your highest human potential, and that's their mission. Community Career Promoter engages the best talents for the common good, is inclusive, and serves all people. It connects people with local career resources. If you would like to know more about Community Career Promoter, please visit the website at communitycareerpromoter.org. There is some message I'd like to bring from Community Career Promoter about seeking career advancement. It's about the American Job Center. It's available in most states, I believe, and you can find yours in the nearest center, the American Job Center. If you know anybody wants to advance in their career, you can tell them about American Job Center. The American Job Center, there is also a virtual American Job Center at www.careeronestop.org. There is so many resources at that website about planning your job search, networking, finding jobs, about interview and negotiating, resume and applications. So many informations and resources can be found. Also, there is self-assess to explore your career options in the careeronestop.org. That will help people to find what kind of interests they may have, or what kind of jobs or careers they want to pursue. So it's a very good resource for self-assessment, learn about careers and plan your career. Yes, there are so many free services or low-cost trainings to prepare for certification as well. There are types of training, including high school equivalency, adult basic education, short-term training, college certifications, and so forth. So this is, most of them are free services. There could be low cost. Encourage people and yourself to visit the American Job Center. Our webinar sponsor is Secate. Secate specializes in career coaching, and the career coaching empowering professionals by helping them make informed decisions about their career, gives you mindset to make smart professional decisions. Get coaching and you will find your sweet spot and find what opportunities exist, what you are good at, what you want from life. If you'd like to know more about career coaching, here is the information is displayed. Our other webinar sponsor is ICAT. ICAT is a human capital company. It's a consulting company that improves organizational performance. ICAT services include customized training, contract staffing, and outsourced services, cybersecurity services as well. Please visit the website at www.icat.net for more information or for questions. Our other sponsor is AD Solutions. AD Solution is an affordable website design and development, graphic design, and online marketing service provider. AD Solutions services include website development, print and online promotion materials, online marketing, and advertising. I encourage you to visit their website at adsolutions.com. Our other sponsor is Impact Management in IT Solutions. Impact is a management and IT support company and provides simplified solutions for management services from foundation to completion. Information technology services from basic to complex depending on customers' needs. Here's the webinar tools for you to use for better audio. At entrance, all is muted, but you can raise your hand when you have questions, and we encourage you to chat throughout the session. We welcome questions, comments, agreements, disagreements. Use the chat room. Again, my name is Ion. I'm the moderator. And we have Marta Nagash to share with us career tips, and she will have a mystery guest.
Okay.
Marta, I give the platform to you.
Okay. Don't forget to record this part of the session.
Okay.
Welcome. Okay, welcome all of you. So today's career tip is going to be about generational differences in the workplace. This is just to create awareness, because when we are at work and we work with different kinds of people from different backgrounds, there is another aspect that we oversee, which is generation. It's not oversee, but it creates a lot of conflicts among people. So there are like 5 generations in a workplace today. The first one is traditionalist or silent generation. These are people born from 1925 to 1945. Probably most of these people have retired from the workplace. The baby boomers born 1946 to 1964. The baby boomers are on the way out. Most of them are starting early retirements and retirement. And the next generation is Generation X, born 1965 to 1980. These are pretty much in the workforce currently. The millennials, born 1981 to 2000. and Generation Z born 2001 to 2010, and they are entering the workforce right now. So a generation is all of the people born and living at about the same time, regarded collectively. It can be described as the average period, generally considered to be 20 to 30 years. So this generation is divided like that in the Western culture. So Japan, Asia, and portions of Europe will have their own generation and definition based on major cultural, political, and economic influences. So this generation difference, classification is not applicable to the whole world. I'm going to focus today on the Generation Y, the millennials, and Generation Z, which is a digital age generation, which are currently in the workforce. So what are the millennials? Whereas they're born in 1980 to 1994, millennials were raised to think they were special and that they could become anything they dreamed of. And then after graduating, they found the boomers and had let millions of jobs slip out of the country. And I-Geners, which is the most youngest generation, have seen this and far more cautious. They are far more cautious and less optimistic and maybe less naive than the millennials. So the millennials grew up and began their careers in a time when almost every home, except third world countries, maybe had an internet connection and a computer. 2008, the largest economic decline since the Great Depression. 9/11, terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center and Pentagon. The effect of 20 plus years of offshoring American jobs, or more. This is the generation. The explosive growth in online companies such as Google, Facebook, Salesforce.com, LinkedIn, eBay, PayPal, and a revolution in the way we work, including widespread acceptance of flex time, work from home, freelancing. This is where the millennial generation, they're mostly in a workplace, they think they really are entitled for a lot of stuff. There is also too many crazy people are shooting their fellow Americans with weapons of rapid destruction. This is what the millennial generation experienced. Generation Z, or also known as I-Gen, refers to a generation that was born between 1996 and 2010, following millennials. So the generation has been raised on the internet and social media, with some of the oldest finishing college by 2020 and entering the workforce. So what are the I-Geners? They are much more tolerant of others. The I-Geners are more tolerant of others, different cultures, sexual orientation, and races. More cautious, less risk-taking. They spend less time in shopping malls, less likely to go out and see movies, more likely to use Instagram than Facebook. This is the positive aspect. There are fewer runaways for Generation Z, less teen pregnancy. What is the negative aspect of this generation? They are heavy users of gaming, less reading of books and newspapers, less experience with teen jobs and earning money in high school, and may stay up till 2 a.m. using smartphone and social media, right? So if there are Generation Z generation in this group, you kind of know what you're doing at night. So why are we talking about this generation differences today? So we're talking about the generation differences and the different generation. These people work together in a workplace. Some millennials may be a boss for Generation X and the Generation Z or the baby boomers, or vice versa. This can create lots of issues in a workplace. If we don't understand the different generations and how they work and what they value and how they work with each other, it's going to be an issue at work. As an HR person, I have mediated a lot of, conflict between supervisors and employees because of generational differences and the way they work, what they value, ethics of work. People, the younger generation work from home. Sometimes they might not be at work at 7 a.m. in the morning, but they're most likely to go home and work from home in the evening. But that doesn't make them lazy, but they're just different from other people, from other generations. So what is our responsibility coming from different generations and working in a workplace to avoid this type of conflicts? Acknowledge, talk about generational differences. You can't solve a problem if you don't acknowledge it exists. So if there is a problem with an employee or a coworker, just think about that. Maybe it's the generation differences. I don't value what they value, type of thing. Appreciate, focus on the why, not on the what, and the common needs. The what divides us, but the why is a uniter. So why is this happening? I have to solve a problem is the solution also, at least to start beginning a solution. Flex, agree on how to accommodate different approaches at work. Being flexible is good. And looking at the other person's approach. Why do people work this way? Why do they feel we have to do things this way? Leverage, maximize the strength of each other's generation. For example, if an organization decides to use the messaging platform Slack as a communication tool, there will inevitably be people who are uncomfortable with the technology they don't recognize or understand. A manager or leader can recruit an older team member who is comfortable and experienced in using the technology to coach, train, and mentor the novice Slack users. So there's nothing wrong with not knowing, but it's just acknowledging and teaching each other. There is a mentorship at work. A lot of companies have mentoring programs. Where I work, we used to have a mentoring program where the generation X, the baby boomers, were mentoring the younger people about wisdom, work ethic, and everything else. And then the generation millennials and then the Z generation were reverse mentoring them on technology, how to communicate via text and things like that. I remember when I learned to text my kids the first time, they wouldn't talk to me when they were in college because I am at the end of the baby boomers. And when I call them, they don't pick up the phone. So I say, I have to learn how to text. So I found someone to teach me how to text, and I bought the phone and I started texting them. And they say, Mom, who's texting for you? I said, myself. No, you wouldn't be able to text that way. I say, yes, I do. So now I don't have to talk. I don't have to call them. I usually text them when I need something. That's the first thing they read, and they respond to me. Because there is a generation difference between me and my kids. They are millennials, and I am at the cusp of the end of the baby boomers to the generation X, beginning of the generation X. So that's a big difference. So there's a communication gap, even between parents and kids. And in a workplace, it's the same. The same society goes to work. So these things can happen at work. So this session is for you to kind of be aware and then go back and see where you belong in the generation, chart, and then see how the other different generations work together. What do they value more, technology or face-to-face meetings, or whatever it might be. So it is an eye-opener for people to understand how different generation works in a workplace. Okay, so I will accept questions at the end. So right now, I'm going to introduce you to my surprise guest, Lynn. The last name is Lee, right? Or
yeah.
Lee? Lee.
Okay.
Lydia Lee, yes. Okay. So this is the section where we're going to do career success stories. Sharing career success stories. So sharing career success stories is reflection on sharing your actions and resources that led to your success in securing job opportunities, securing advancement, promotions, raises, and career fulfillment. And what is the benefit of career success stories? You know, reflecting and sharing your career success have multiple benefits for you and for others. The process gives you an opportunity to take stock of your successes and your success patterns for yourself. The process gives you the opportunity to repeat your own success when you need them. Your success stories can inspire others, and others can achieve success of emulating your actions. While sharing your success stories, you may pick up inspiring stories and tips you wish to emulate as well. So now I'm going to go to the questions. Lynn, I will allow you to introduce yourself first, and then we can have a conversation. It's not an interview, really, a conversation about your career success, so that people can learn from you, and we learn from each other.
Sounds great. Thanks, Martha. So my name is Lydia, and you know, I've gone through a lot of different jobs, right? And in terms of career, you know, I don't think that I'm done looking for my journey, moving on my journey. And I think through every step of the way, everything that Martha alluded to, right? Learning from each other, finding out why people work the way they do, why they think the way they do. A lot of things has to do with your past experience. A lot of things have to do with your history. So I'm really hoping to connect with each one of you today through some of my stories, and hopefully you can find me on LinkedIn and connect with me there and share some of your stories. I've done anything from coding, software development, to being a project manager, a business analyst, a system analyst, and to today I'm a coach. I help people through, organizations through change, cultural change, mindset change, agile transformations. I'm a friend, I'm a mentor, I'm a lending ear, right? Whatever people need me to be, I'm there. So that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you. You have a vast experience coding, you know, you came from technology world, and now you're going into people's world.
Yes.
You know, empowering people. I mean, it's very different, you know, when you work with computers. Computers are machines, but now you're working with people for mindset change and coaching. What an interesting transition from that to here. I always want to hear what motivated you to do that.
I mean, honestly, you know, it's that no matter what the problems are, the simplest solution usually does not lie within technology or process, but somehow organizations always tend to go there first, right? They always look for the quickest, the easiest way to figure out something. And usually that has to do with a solution that's usually IT based, right? Or process based.
Yeah.
Very seldomly do they actually look at their people, right? The cultural aspect, the way that their people think. And I think the reason is because those are longer term process, you know, mindset that you actually have to instill, that you as leaders, you as managers, you as people on the ground, employees of a company need to embrace that, you know, sometimes it's us. And that's really a hard pill to swallow for many leaders. And that's why we sometimes don't like to look internally to look for those things, right? But ever since I went into the people aspect, I do agree, it's been life-changing.
Yeah, because people make technology run, people make it happen all the time. I think people are the most expensive resources that company has. I think nowadays they're changing to taking care of the people, you know, the human capital is the best. So what are the best insightful career tips that you receive from others?
So I would say, you know, I remember, you know, talking about generation gap, right? I think that's sometimes like I would say my hero, the person that I consult even till today. Sometimes when I have like, you know, tough choices I have to make in terms of job or things like that, I actually go to my dad, right? And from the very get-go, he would always remind me, no matter what you do, no matter where you go, no matter what position you hold, find an opportunity to learn. And, you know, that's stuck with me. And learning looks a little bit differently depending on where I go, what I'm doing. But to me, it means a couple of very distinct things, right? It means that I have every intention to have an open mind and an open heart when I go into a conversation, when I go into a meeting, when I go into a tough one-on-one feedback session, right? Is that I will look at that person truly as a person, not as somebody that I'm going to, scold, or somebody who I need to set straight, or so that person sitting in front of me is probably going to be as vulnerable as I would be in that position. To have some modesty, right? Learning also means that, you may not hold all the answers. And so when you go into a conversation and you have an open mind to actually learn from somebody, your questions will sound different. Your intent will come through. The genuine conversation that you want to bring, the words that you bring into it will sound different, will feel different. You will listen with a different ear, right? You're not going to listen for words that you can attack back on. You're not going to listen for words that you can challenge, right? But really is going in and truly listening without the intent of responding. And then you observe, right? You really are observing them as a person. You see how they're sitting. You see, are they scared? Are they in fear? Is something else on their mind potentially, right? Maybe they have a lot of family things going on that you may have no purview into, but having that openness to observe their mentality, their positions, will allow you to ask the right questions and to really treat each person as an individual. And this goes to what you said, Martha, right, is, about generations and cultural differences and ethnicity, right? There's so many types of differences that you could talk about, right? You could talk about cognitive diversity, right? Thinking differently, speaking differently, language, right? I mean, everybody is so different from another person. And that's what makes us people. That's also what makes the hardest part for us to connect sometimes, right? Because we're looking for like that similarity to be able to go, hey, you're kind of like me, And one of the stories that I remember reading one time is, when you're in America, every American will be, not so friendly to you, right? Like you're not going to go, and meet anybody that you want. But when you go abroad to a different country, the first American or the first person that speaks English, you immediately attach to them, right? And it's that common thing that makes you want to go and connect. And so why can't we do that on a daily basis? Why can't we see connections and differences in a different light, in a different way? And I think that if we open our eyes and heart to really learn, we will make connections so much easier.
Really good. So at the end of the day, we're all human beings. So it's empathy and understanding the person, a human being. Once we connect at that level, everything is going to be easy to solve, whether you're disciplining the person or whether you are connecting to find some information and things like that. So that's the wisdom that we can get also from generation, the older generation, maybe the older workforce, not, because they're more aware of those things. I'm not saying that they're the perfect generation, but wisdom, the longer you work, the longer you accumulate wisdom.
Yep.
So what do you think, Lydia, are the lessons that you learned the hard way?
So I would say like the toughest thing that I've ever had to do in all of my jobs was when I was a manager at this nonprofit education organization called the National Student Clearinghouse. I had made a hire. And it was the first time I was put in a manager position. And somehow that person didn't work out too well, right? They weren't gelling with the team so well. The team kept complaining to me about them. And at their 30-day evaluation, I had to make a call, right? I had to decide, am I going to keep him on the team or let him go. And at that time, I was younger. I would say that it was the first and only time that I've ever had to let someone go. Thinking back today, right, and it's been about probably 9 years now since I've made this action. Today I regret it, right? Because there's a couple things that I didn't do right. One, I never had that open conversation with him that I talked about. I didn't learn from him, right? I heard from the team that was there, but I didn't hear his story. I didn't really, maybe even set him up for success, I would say, right? Like, did I make the right introduction? Did I make him feel welcome, And I think that I don't think that I would say I was a bad manager, but I don't think that I set him up for the most successful path there. He didn't know anything about the education industry. Did I take my time to teach him? He never worked on a team that was bigger than 2. Did I show him the way on how to work with a team of 20? Did I share with him, other people's stories? Did I open the floor up for people to truly share and open up? It wasn't. It was all about work, right? It was all about metrics. It was all about measures and numbers, And so now that I know more, now that I've, like you said, changed my path into more of a people aspect of things, till today, I regret that. Right, I regret making that decision without giving him the right tools to be given the right chance. So I would say that would be my hardest lesson learned.
Yeah. So you learn from it, and you're cautious, and you're teaching other people not to do the same. So in companies, I work in HR, so I see a lot of managers come to me and they say, Martha, I want to terminate so-and-so. I said, when? Today, yesterday. I said, oh no, that's not going to happen. And the company, and they said, why? Because did you talk to this guy or this girl or this person about why they're not performing? They say, well, I've told them several times. And I say, well, do you know about the company disciplinary process? They say, no. We teach new supervisors how to handle this type of conflicts or performance management and things like that. So I take them through the process, and knowing, people will be given verbal warning and then written warning and memo of warning and then probation, and then you let them go. Not all company is the same. Some companies just terminate people without giving them any opportunity, but the companies I work for, we go through the process. Not only it helps the employee, it also helps the employer from any type of legal action against them, because they can have a discrimination, so they can have all kinds of things coming against them. So it's always good to train your managers, and also as an individual, learn from your mistakes, and then treat people fairly. Because if you go to, if the employee sues the company for unfair termination, whatever it might be, when you go to EEOC or you go to court, if you do the things above and beyond the expectation, you always win. The employer always win, and there is nothing better than treating people the way they should be treated.
I do agree.
Okay, let's go to the third question. So, what are your career milestones?
So I guess if I take you through the journey, right, I would say that what's funny is that probably since I was 6 years old, I always, I think, had this calling to be a teacher, right? I had my parents had bought me a blackboard, and I always was, pretending to be the teacher with all my stuffed animals and my siblings, right, sitting there listening to me or, teaching them something. But when I told my parents that I wanted to be a teacher, my dad looks at me, and I'm barely 5 feet, right? I'm 4'11". He looks at me and he's like, who the heck is going to listen to you? You're short, you're small, you're tiny, like they're going to step all over you. Go do something else. Maybe go into business. And I said, oh, okay, yeah, maybe, And at that time, and, talking about generation gap, right? So my dad is a baby boomer. And he, in his mind is getting a very strong foundational career, right? Meaning you had to either be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, something with computers, right? But something that actually made money, right? And teachers are never seen to be making money. And so I gave up on that career at that time. And so I decided to go into IT, and I went into business, right? And that's what I majored in. I got my MBA, and I went into software development. Now, what's interesting is that, his lesson of always going for the opportunity to learn made me make very good career choices, right? When I came out of college, I had like 3 job offers. One of them was like $50,000, right? And at that time it was like, oh my God, that's like gold, And then Fannie Mae was paying me like 32. But the thing is with Fannie Mae is that they actually gave me the opportunity to join a program, one of their university elite programs, that we were actually on the hands training for 3 years. And so, I would be able to learn different fields. I would be able to learn different ways of operating. I would be able to learn a lot of different things that I probably wouldn't be able to learn if I had gone into like consulting, right? And so taking that opportunity, looking at where Fannie Mae had actually taken me, and I worked there for 12 and a half years doing a lot of different jobs there, I would say that it was the best choice I have ever made, right? Looking back, comparing myself to my friends, comparing myself to other people, like I would not be who I am today if I hadn't made that choice, Now, is there ever a bad choice in your career path? No, because you can always hit reset anytime. You can always choose a different path. You learn to learn, right? I think that's how we all grow up to be good adults, right? Is that you learn to learn, you learn to work in whatever field that you're being thrown into. You learn the job, you learn the industry, you learn whatever you need to. And I would say that, ever since then, I've done like project management, and now I'm a coach. And as a coach, the hardest thing is, biting your tongue from, you may know the solution, but it's really helping people come to their own solution, right? And what I found through doing coaching now is that I don't always have the best answer, even though at the moment I'm like, oh yeah, I can tell you what it is. But really, when I take people through it, their solution is so much better than mine. And they believe in it, and they came up with it. And so how cool is that you can actually unleash somebody else's potential that's better than what you would have envisioned from the beginning, right? And that's why I continue to coach. That's why I continue to mentor, and really teaching people about people.
So all those experiences that working with people, being a manager and everything has prepared you to be a coach now. And coaching is to help people to find their own answers. It's not telling them what to do.
Yes.
A lot of people think when you say I'm a coach, or I can coach you through the process, they think, oh, she's going to give me an answer. I always say, no, the coach, when you learn about coaching, if you didn't hear anything about what coaching is one always think about the coachee, was the person who's being coached, always has the answer. The coach is just taking it out of there and then showing them that they already have the answer, or
yes.
they know how to get to the answer. So that's very powerful.
Yes.
Okay, so what actions in the past led you to secure jobs or new opportunities?
I would say that there's a couple things, but I think that the key is being me, right? When I first started going on interviews and updating my resume, you're trying to please others, right? So you're trying to make your resume look as best as it can, putting words in there, big words, that would make you stand out. But what happened is that you're not telling your story, right? You're trying to just market yourself. And when you don't see a story within a resume, people still don't know you. And then through the interview process, the less you are you, the less the person becomes skeptical. Am I hiring the right person? Are they going to fit? And so they walk away with an interview really confused. So I would say that the one thing that I've done, I think, I would say in the past decade, is truly be me, right? I've revamped my entire resume to truly be storytelling. I don't have a cover page anymore. My summary tells my why. My summary tells me why I'm looking for a job, why I would be a good fit for a team, and what makes me me. And so I talk about my family. I talk about my careers. I talk about how I got to where I am and how I like to spend my time. I talk about me going to the gym. And so I talk about my whole, right? So that they understand that my job is not everything about me, because when all I talk about is my job, what would they expect me to do when I get into the job is 100% dedication to the job. But I know that's impossible, right? So it's being true to yourself, being honest about what your competencies are, being honest about what you lack, but what you're willing to do to go learn and how you've come about learning the things you don't know, right? I think that's what people are looking for usually during interviews. I don't look for the best candidate that can do the best thing at that job. I'm looking for a good fit for a team. I'm looking for a good fit for to fulfill the incompleteness of my team, right? We want one brain, right? We need all sorts of different people who think differently, who will challenge each other respectfully, and really move together through a challenge.
Yeah, it's very important. So, but I want to say something here, since I'm from HR, and I know I interview all the time, and you know the legal aspects of it. So, a lot of times managers cannot ask personal questions of a candidate, like they can't ask about the family and everything else. So what we advise managers is to do behavioral interview. So what is behavioral interview? Maybe we'll do some type of session about that. Behavioral interview is the manager will ask, not, you know, what did you do from 2010 to 2012, not type of things, but what was your accomplishment? What was your challenges? Were you the manager or the project leader on that project? How did you work with the team? Did you have a difficult, team member? How did you handle it? So all those, so the interview process has changed nowadays. We call it behavioral interview. So if people being interviewed want to share their personal information, they can say, you know, I commute from this place, I spend my time in the weekends playing golf or whatever it might be. You can weave it in. But managers, for the sake of discrimination or to avoid discrimination, they're not allowed to ask personal questions, so that you know. So you're not being mean, but they can't. They can't say, are you married? They can't. They can't say, do you have children? Because if in case you're not hired, that person can sue the company saying that I'm not hired because I told them I have 4 children, although I can do the job better than anyone. So it's this thin line where you cannot be honest completely about your personal situation, but showing your strength in a way that is very helpful to the job that you're hiring to do, you're being hired to do. Most of the time, we ask managers to stick to job-related questions. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, if a person, some managers go to talk about a lot of stuff, which is fine, but they have to be careful. So that we call it legal landmines. You know, don't touch those things because it can backfire if you don't. But it is really good to be yourself, but also knowing that what you can do and what you cannot, what you can say and what you cannot say is important.
Right. As the person hiring, I totally agree.
Yeah. So I can, well, let's go to the questions. I see that people are making comments. Mm-hmm. What does it
So,
say? And agree being honest is so liberating. Question, when can personal story be acceptable or hurtful to the candidate? I think I just covered that. Did I answer your question, Alero? Hello?
Larry, can you unmute yourself?
Is this question answered?
Lero, can you unmute yourself?
So I'll add. I'll also answer the question a little bit differently, right? To me is, and you know, once you get to an interview, it means that your resume came across as somebody who has some of the competencies already.
Of course.
So when I'm bringing somebody in for an interview, I'm looking for that personal touch, right? I'm looking for the personal fit for the team, for the company, and for me. And so I think that's, you know, that personal story, I don't think it ever hurts, right? It makes you a person, it makes you human. It allows us to see vulnerability, and that you're able to show that you're able to be empathetic on your team that you're going to be working with, right? To me, it really helps.
Yeah, it does. It does. That's why I say behavioral interview. So behavioral interview kind of tells you the story of the person, what they are, how they solve, how they fit to the company. And at the same time, it also shows the skill set.
Yeah.
Any other question? I still have some more question to ask Lydia, but I was hoping maybe the participants have some questions, since it's a very good discussion.
I saw that Lero posted 2 other questions. Resetting your career makes a lot of sense. When is it too late to reset, right? I think that's a personal choice, honestly. You know, I think that I would say it's never too late, right? Obviously, if you're going to have to go into a field where you have to learn new competencies, it depends on how much effort you're willing and time you're willing to put into it. But, you know, is it really ever too late? You know, I'm actually in the process right now of thinking about revamping my entire career and dropping everything that I do and potentially doing like a restaurant, a bakery, something in the food industry, right? Something I know really little about. But what I do know is that I love to meet people. So no matter what I do, you know, the stories, the support, the mentorship, the friend, the lending ear, that will always be there.
Yeah.
His other question, does being yourself always work in your favor? I would say, why wouldn't it, right? And I would ask it this other way too, right? When you're not yourself, how comfortable do you feel? Probably not so good, right? And you know that you're doing something that doesn't feel right, and you know that it's fake. And so, you know, there's some people who say, well, you got to fake it until you make it, right? True. But once you make it and you decide then to be yourself, how would others see you? It's like, well, he changed a lot. It's like, okay, he got promoted and now he's like a totally different person. So was he always a different person before? And was he just never true before and now he's true? And so I think that, you know, as long as you're true to yourself and you're being yourself, I think that there's just nothing wrong with it, right? Your team, you sharing why you say the things you do, why you do the things you do, will help you and your team learn from each other. You go in with that learning and open mind and open heart, you know, people will accept you.
Yeah, there is a saying, Anero, about being yourself. It says, be yourself because everybody else is taken. You can't be somebody else, right?
So true too, right? There's no other one but you.
But if there is something that you have to improve on the way you communicate, or you want to do things and things like that, you can always improve, but you can never be somebody else. So be true to yourself. If you're not, people can see through that. And then what is wrong with you? Why wouldn't you be yourself? You're perfect the way you are, the way you're made. You just have different way of doing things, different way of communication. It's about selling yourself. So be yourself always is true. With an understanding from the job relatedness part of it, if there are things to improve on, things to work on, you do that. You know, if there are some negative aspects of my behavior or your behavior you don't think people accept, like the way you behave at home, you will not behave at work. So you kind of see how you're going to act in a work environment and also in a home environment. So considering all that, but being yourself is the best thing you can do. And that's the only thing you can do.
And I would, the only caveat I would add to that, right, is you have to watch your ecosystem, right?
Yes.
If your ecosystem doesn't allow you to be yourself, how do you sort of nudge that ecosystem a little bit, right, to make it work for you? So I'm not telling you to fake it, right, or to not be yourself. But let's say, for example, you go into a government, you know, entity, and everybody has to wear a suit and a tie, right? And you're like, well, no, that's not me. I'm not going to do that. Well, there are rules, right? There are things that we have to adhere to, but it doesn't mean that that can't be you, right? So we have to have ourselves also a little bit of open-mindedness that maybe ourselves is not just about what we always did and always believed, right? It has to do with more about the values and the inspiration that we want others to see. So being yourself, you know, like, because I can see like millennials, you know, going out and say, well, no, I'm not going to work that 9 to 5 because I work better at 2 a.m.
I know.
Great, awesome. You know, talk it through with your manager, right?
Yes.
Work it out, but don't go in and say, well, no, that job just won't work for me, and these hours don't work, right? Like, that's not being yourself, right? So
I agree. So I will ask the last question, Lydia. What advice would you give to your younger version?
So that I thought about this one a lot, you know, because, and I would say I don't think that is advice to my younger version, because again, like I think that everything that I've done, every mistake that I've made, I would say that I've learned from it, right? It makes me who I am. It makes me a stronger person. But you know, there's a couple of things I would say to people of a younger generation, which is, one, do your research, right? When you go into an organization, why are they the way they are? Why do they have those kind of rules? Like, figure out the history, find the history, before you start to want to change it, you know? Know your alternatives. You know, if, let's say, you know, for example, you know, when is it too late to reset? The question that Alero was asking, right, is, you know, if I don't want to go down this path, what are my other choices? What are the risks that I'm willing to take? What am I willing to sacrifice? And making the decision and really just going with it. Sometimes your gut kind of knows better than your mind and your heart, you know, because your gut is almost your heart and your mind combined with your experience. But I would say, you know, really talk through your alternatives. And then the last thing is really talk to different people with different backgrounds, right? Don't make a decision without talking to other people. Other people will give you their perspective. Other people will give you their stories. Other people will give you their ideas. At the end, the decision is yours, but it will give you potentially a different way of looking at things, a different way to weigh things, a different way to judge things. And maybe they may ask you really insightful questions to guide you a little bit differently. And, you know, I have one quick story with this one. You know, I go to a gym every morning, and 2 weeks ago, this girl came up to me. She's really young. She's probably 18, 20, right? She's still going to school. She's like, you seem like a person who would know people, right? And I said, oh, yes, I do know people. Who do you like to meet? And she's like, well, I'm studying to be a child psychiatrist, and I was wondering if you knew anybody who was in that domain. And I said, I don't, but what are you looking for? And she said, well, I'm trying to find a job as an assistant or something in a child psychiatry office so that I can learn. And I said, do you know now where child psychiatrists usually work and partner with? And she said, no. And so I said, well, I know like in my pediatrician office, they have like 3 child psychiatrists, right? And I say a lot of them partner now with pediatricians because pediatricians are the doctors who know best, right? Who sees the kids all the time. And so, you know, why not go and look for a pediatrician office to work in? But also don't go and say, I wanted to be your assistant. Go tell them that you want to learn. Tell them that you're willing to do whatever it takes to learn. And I'm sure they will open up their door for you, right? The minute you tell them that you want to go and be an assistant, guess what you're going to do? Clerical work. They're not going to be teaching you. And so, you know, be true to yourself, talk to different people because sometimes you don't know what you're going to learn. And guess what? In 2 weeks, she found a job. So I'm so happy for her.
Very good, very good. You're a coach, so you help her find her own answers. So, Lydia, is there any answer that you haven't answer for yourself in terms of career that's not answered yet?
I think that, you know, the one thing I wrote down that I didn't have a chance to share is sort of what led me to some of the advancements and promotions, you know, and that right now I'm at a point in my career where, you know, promotion doesn't matter to me. I don't care about my title. I just care about the work that I do, right? But, you know, when you're younger and when you're looking for recognition, somehow makes us sometimes feel better, right? And there's a couple of advice I would give on that, which is one, always prepare yourself, right? Find a coach, and I don't mean like an actual coach or a career coach, right? But find somebody who is able to coach you through, potentially ask you the hard questions like Martha, you know, that you shared as how you coach your managers to ask questions, right? You need somebody to be able to tell you, these are going to be the tough questions you're going to be asked. Are you ready to actually answer them? What are the stories you're going to bring? Help them shape their stories, right? You need somebody to do that for you. Be the one, you know, once you get that job, once you get that promotion, be the person who's willing to do it, right? Be the person who's willing to even step above and beyond. Don't be afraid to do more work than everybody else. You know, don't be afraid to be, just be there, right? The more you're there, the more people notice you, the more people will turn to you, no matter if it's your job or not, you know. And organizations and managers and leaders are always looking for people that they can lean on, that they can count on, you know. So just be there. And I know it's even harder now with everybody being virtual, you know, but be available.
Thank you. Excellent. So people, if we have questions, we answered some of the questions as we go. Please ask or please type it so we can share some wisdom with you guys because of our experiences here. And Lydia has a lot of experience to share as a coach and then also being in the workforce for some time. Any questions from the audience? Anyone?
I guess all the questions have been answered, I believe. It was an amazing discussion. Thank you so much, Lydia and Martha. I wish it could just keep going and on because it's very useful, all the things that you're sharing. Our time is up for today, and thank you all for joining us. Thank you so much, Lydia, for coming and sharing your career success, and thank you, Martha, for the amazing conversation. Hope we're going to see you again next week. Yes. Are you saying anything, Martha?
No, I said thank you very much, Lydia, for coming and for sharing the wisdom. And thank you, John, for moderating. We had an amazing time. Hopefully people have gotten something that they can use immediately in their work or in their job or wherever it might be. So thank you. Oh,
Thank you. I hope you guys link into me too. I have a lot more stories to tell.
we'll invite you back again. Don't worry.
Sounds great. It was
Thank
nice
you.
meeting everybody.
Okay.
Yeah,
thanks.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.